Welcome back to BLOCKTV. It's time now for Traders' Take on this Australia Day 2020. We raise our stubbies in honor of my home country, Australia. I'll take a swig to that. And after I do, I will welcome our very own technical analyst, Joe Saz from New York. Joe, an absolute pleasure to have you on this Australia Day. I wouldn't like to spend it with anyone else out there in the world and anyone else to give me my hot tips on the latest market movements in the crypto world. Starting off with, Joe, we seem to be seeing a nice little bounce as of this time of filming. Back or up a couple of percentage points in the last 24 hours. Is this the turnaround and recovery so many have been waiting for?
Yeah, well, first, let me say, Happy Australia Day to you, and you look like you're having a fantastic time. And I also love that introduction. I think you might want to have one of those on hand, one of those sippy cups on hand at all times. I really appreciate that warm welcome there. So, to answer your question, 8,200 was kind of the fear range for a pullback from 9,200, or what I was expecting to be more like 9,400, and we hit that. And I think the thing is, we got a lot of that fear type activity and mentality out of the way in the 8,500s, and since we consolidated there in like the 87, kept flying up to 87, dropping back down to 86, dropping down to 85 a little bit, popping back up. We had a lot of these little weird runs. So yeah, let's take a quick look at this in the charts. We're gonna have to zoom back a little bit here, but this is where I think a lot of people got washed out of the market. This whole sideways action with the pretty clear pump and dump scenarios, massive wicks to the downside, massive moves to the downside, failed upside attempts. This shook a lot of people out of the market, and I think that knocked a lot of the fear level out, and that kind of hardened up the people who stuck around, who said, you know what, I'm going to trade this very dangerous area. It was pretty sad that we didn't really get a consolidation after this, but we did get not a full retrace. We did get a higher low, and we've been pretty much building off of that ever since. And now we're even starting to create kind of a accelerated trend within this move. So I'm actually kind of optimistic right now. I don't want to count my eggs before they hatch, but I've been pretty much convinced that this is going to be a good-looking bull run. I've been thinking that this is a roaring bull run, and I'm really hoping that remains the case. Now, a quick look at the daily. Let's knock the, since this is the weekly close today, let's take a look at this weekly close. I mean, it looks like we're right on we're just barely missing that crossover on the MACD, which we had earlier in the week. So that's a little unfortunate, but we might be able to make up some of that lost ground. The weekly is still looking good, but I would love for this thing to cross over. So back to the daily, let's get rid of the MACD, and I just want to point out, let's see here, this moving average was actually done incorrectly. I had switched this down to the 20 for a quick look at the weekly view. So let me bring back the 50. We haven't experienced a bullish crossover yet, but from the 50 and the 128 moving averages, the 50 being the short and 128 being intermediate term moving average, it looks like we're due for a crossover in the next coming weeks. And one more thing of note before we pop out of Bitcoin, we are possibly going to hit a 9 buy. This is a little dangerous. We might not hit it, but I would love for this 8 to pull back just enough so that we can hit a 9 buy. I really want a strong technical indicator to take us to the next level, and I'd really love for it to be something that traders, investors can really latch onto. I think sequential is a great indicator. So you can see that we've already started the reversal. I mean, we've already bottomed out, and we bottomed out on the 6th, and we've started creating higher lows since then over the past 3 days. So that shows that the 8,200 area was very solid support. This is kind of a long-standing area. We've been cutting through a little bit, but this was a great support area. We hit right along the intersection of the descending triangle trend line, and that horizontal support bounced right off of there. So I think things are looking good, and I am hoping that this is the trend line that remains intact, and that we kind of go sideways and kind of hit it somewhere closer to here. I don't want us to hit it down here and then continue up. So that's pretty much Bitcoin. I'm hoping that this 9 buy kicks us off for what's to be, another action like this. It's a number of days of beautiful upside activity, 5% moves, and hopefully a couple double-digit moves in there as well.
And Joe, let's bring this out to the wider picture though before we move on from Bitcoin, because there's some interesting sort of wider market fundamental issues going on at the moment that could impact where Bitcoin is headed right now. Obviously, we've just had the Chinese New Year, which everyone says if you look back to the last 5 years, there have been distinct dips over every Chinese New Year. But obviously this one is a little different from others, obviously because of that coronavirus coming out of China. A lot of people in quarantine, a lot of people not moving where they'd want to. And we saw on Friday indications that that could be affecting global equities markets with big downturns in Asia and the US. Projecting out to the week ahead, do you anticipate this having much, if any, impact on crypto markets?
That's a really tough one, because this is kind of an unprecedented type situation. Bitcoin having reached the level of popularity it currently has, and then something like as big as China, focused on survival. At this point, I think it's definitely going to have an impact on global markets. It's definitely going to have an impact on domestic markets, and I've spoken to friends out there, and they're basically saying it's kind of scary to leave your house. So I'm wondering how that's going to impact things. That, I'm assuming. Unfortunately, I can't really put myself in that position to say what would a trader do, because I feel like that's such a small fish to fry when you have real things to worry about. So all I can do is just hope that those people are okay, everyone in China and all the infected are okay, and I think that there might be some sort of impact, but it's really hard to speculate at this point. But I do think if there was something, if I had to pull a rabbit out of the hat and say what's going to happen, I would probably say that this Chinese New Year would probably go unaffected. It probably wouldn't have the same type of action to the downside, and I would assume that since it doesn't have that stimulus, looking back at the history, then things are just going to return to normal bullish operations.
All right, it'll be interesting to see how that does play out, obviously, for the health of those individuals there, and also wider impacts on China's ability to continue trading, manufacturing, and markets around the world. So bearing that in mind, let's turn now to some of the alts out there who seem to also be seeing some nice returns, at least on the last 24 hours after that sort of sluggish weekend that we had.
Yeah, I agree. Let's start running through a few of these, because the reason why I've been wanting to jump through a few of these more quickly is because I really want to make sure that we catch alt season if it's happening. So looking at XRP, nothing really important to see here. In fact, XRP had like super bullish news about Brad Garlinghouse, saying that they're considering an IPO. It seems a little bit washy to me, and I think that they need to handle their problems in court first. Alleged securities fraud allegations, and they're in court fighting this. So an IPO is just kind of a bullshit publicity stunt to me. And I think that, obviously I think very low of Brad Garlinghouse and most ICO shillers, but, shitcoin shillers. But anyways, XRP on a technical level really did suffer what I guess would be a kind of a counter trend move. I would think it would be a good time to get excited on this, but it didn't really seem like people did. Classic sell the news, maybe some people bought it up. This could be silent money entering altcoins, very well could be, but I'm not seeing massive moves over and over and over again. I mean, 14.5, that's really not an alt season move. So anyways, we did hit a 9 sell, a massive reversal hammer on a 5, red 5 into a red 6. This reversal hammer should really do a lot of work for the bulls, really pick things up. We had a reversal hammer over here on a 9. That did kick off for about 4 days and then reverse, double top breakdown. So I think this reversal hammer is pretty important. I'm glad to see, on a technical level, if I had no idea what this asset was, I would say this is looking good out of the gate, coming out of a reversal hammer this strong. So anyways, I'm thinking that XRP might have a number of green candles ahead of us. So, XRP has something to look forward to. But of course, quick look at Bitcoin dominance. Litecoin is at 1.53%, and Litecoin is where we're headed next, because that's the one that a lot of people think leads the market. So let's get Litecoin USD out here. and it looks like I accidentally did this on Bitfinex, but either way, we have a breakthrough of this. Actually looks similar enough that we're willing to accept this. We do have a Russell on the 50 MA, broke through the intermediate term, came back to test it, and it looks like we're going to skip the 9 buy on Litecoin as well. This being just about the same distance above the 6 as the as Bitcoin. So I'm hoping we get this kickoff, but this is not looking like alt season to me. This is just looking like a general bull run. Alt season, keep in mind, has a lot more to do with you know, the wild swings, 100% moves, or more, 300% moves. It's going to be a very different market when that happens. And let's see, BSV really has so this is what I was saying. This is going to probably be a bull trap if we had this high. And I think that we have this bull trap pretty clearly drawn. Sometimes, in my experience, Bitcoin or crypto assets have a tendency to have a bear trap, a bull trap, and then actually create a higher high, and then pull back down. So I don't want to take a higher high right above $315 off the table. But this is, you know, I think that's possible, but I still think that this is a pretty washy scam coin. I think that they, you know, are doing a lot of halvening work to make sure that miners are trying to, you know, that they have hash, right? That they want people to pull their plugs on Bitcoin, which probably isn't going to happen, at least on a scale that they would want, and put it on BSV and try to compete with Roger's coin. So and Roger has Bitmain, of course, so he's not, you know, completely underwater with his ability to produce output hash. So not to mention Bitcoin.com. So
we're gonna. Do you think taking a look at BCH? Do you think there's anything out there that we're going to see differentiating itself? I mean, the fact that BSV and BCH are both so closely tied right now, it sort of seems like there's a little bit of a battle going on for that secondary position to obviously the prime Bitcoin.
Yeah, the thing is, you know, here's BCH, Bitcoin Cash, Roger coin. The other one was Calvin Craig coin. So anyways, this actually has a lot more of an appearance of maybe what Litecoin's about to do. I don't know, with its fight after coming back down to the 128 and popping back up to the 200. Bitcoin Cash just shredded the 200 day and pumped wildly. I think that this looks a little bit fishy to me, but I would say everything else looks quite a bit more organic to me than BSV. So I'm just gonna say this looks okay. We do have a bullish crossover here, short intermediate term moving average. Moving averages seem like they want to start climbing. They've gotten really close to one another. Kind of nice, you know, a little family right here. Looks like they're going to start taking off. This 200 seems like it might have a little bit longer to start flipping, but we're going to have a pretty quick crossover of on top of the short and intermediate term moving average. We're going to have a crossover, a bullish crossover, the short and long-term moving average, the 50 and 200. So this thing's probably is looking bullish. I mean, from the appearance, it's looking bullish. What do I think is going to happen? I think we're going to have probably some bullish activity going into the halvening, and whether it's organic or inorganic doesn't matter. Everyone knows that this is going to be an opportunity to make money. The halvening hype is just for Bitcoin. We know, historically speaking, it's a sure thing. So it doesn't surprise me that people are looking at Bcash and BSV, considering those probably have some of the same core type individuals trading it, or at least hodling it and investing in it. I'm expected to see something similar. So it's almost like a free money type situation here. Mm-hmm. And I'm hoping that if people are using altcoins to predict the future, I sure hope that this is what happens to Bitcoin, that we blow through the 200 with a 30% pump. I don't think that's going to happen, but I hope that we start making some serious moves in Bitcoin while maintaining a lot of dominance. I would hope to stay above that, you know, 60 above 60%. I don't really want to see Bitcoin get, you know, back down to the alt season numbers again, but we'll know that if dominance does drop down to the, you know, below 50% area, then we're probably looking at a distribution of wealth from Bitcoin into altcoins. We'll see what kind of impact that has on BTC price, and we'll know for sure that at least means that the smart money is preparing for an alt season run up. So I mean, I might even have to take you take some of my pride off the table and get in on that too. So I'm monitoring everything. I'm making sure that we don't miss this move, because I think this bull run is going to be one of the biggest bull runs that we've ever seen. Obviously, Bitcoin doesn't have a tendency to disappoint when it comes to bull runs, and I think this one will be no exception to that rule. And I think it'll probably be the run that puts us into the six-figure territory over the next 2 years. So I'm really excited about Bitcoin right now, and we'll see what happens, what that means for the wider crypto space as well.
All right, Joe. I mean, regardless of what happens, it sounds like we are in for some of those exciting times ahead, whether it be in Bitcoin, whether it be in alts, wherever it may be. That hopefully some new money will start flooding into the market, and we'll start seeing some interesting action. We'll have to see how it all plays out. So I recommend everyone on this Australia Day to keep watching at blocktv.com for all the latest news and information. I'm Asher Westropp-Evans. Joe, I'm drinking this one for you. Thanks for watching.
For more news and updates, follow us on Twitter.